Good morning, Shabbat Shalom. It's moving. I owe so much to Susan and Stephanie and Emily. What is the three tenors or the three sopranos or whatever who made it possible, and to Libby and Chagai and Ori and so many others who make it possible out there down in the field at the forefront. From a very personal point of view, it's like a kind of a homecoming, not only because I'm coming from a little bit of a Yeke German origin, you can hear it through my Arnold Schwarzenegger accent, but when many years ago when I put on the table a book which argues the beginning of the seeds of this argument, I was almost immediately, overnight, marginalized at the Israeli society and totally rejected by the German intelligentsia, saying, Avraham, it's too viel. It's too much for us. And now all of a sudden, we are here in Berlin discussing the most crucial thing about not just our identity, but our, in a general term. And I ask myself, is it possible that again in Berlin, another wall is falling? I hope so. There is a huge importance to open this discourse, Dafka, rather here in Germany, because without Germany in this discourse of what we try to do here in this seminar, the entire Europe and maybe the entire West will remain locked. If we open this lock, if we find the key for this lock, maybe we can unlock, maybe we can open up a different era of discussion. Once somebody was asked, what is a good sermon? And since it's Shabbat and sermon, it works. And he said, tell them what you're going to tell them, then tell them what you told them. So I'm going to tell you about the modus operandi, how the memory was hijacked, what led to it, what is the meaning of it, what might be the conclusions of it. I'd like to offer a very brief alternative, and then since I'm coming from a Jewish origin, I will end up with an answer which is actually a question, or a question which might be a leading answer. About two things we cannot argue. There was a Holocaust, and it is tragedy of a magnitude we cannot imagine. And it takes more than 80 years in order to overcome such a personal and collective trauma. It takes time. The other thing is that Israel, maybe miraculously, succeeded to make the trauma into its most profitable bank of political credit. This is a bank, and this is the credit out of which my government buys submarines it does not necessarily need, settles in places which is not necessarily its, denies the right of millions for basic democratic rights and liberties, and yet at the same time considered as Western and progressive, though inside, even for people like myself, church and state issues, or maybe Knesset and Beta Knesset issues, are quite limiting above or on top of policies of segregation and discrimination. That's a miracle. How did it happen? Or how does it work, actually? It's simple. Very, very simple. In one of the last rounds in Gaza, and there is always a last round in Gaza, don't worry, soon there will be another last round in Gaza. First day, first minute, I'm out in the street with my gangs, with my chevre, in order to protest against the war. Sure. Shoutings and pushing and everything, and then I was cornered by three right-wing thugs, and I said, well, maybe they're stronger, but I hope I'm faster. Maximum run. Okay, I ran away. Shouting, 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 and then they said, can we talk with you? I said, yes. So one of them tells me, Avraham, I understand you're against the war in Gaza. You're a peacenik, you're no goodnik, you're against any war. Okay, fine. But did we ever set gas chambers in Gaza? I said, I hope not. No. So he said, so it's okay? It's kosher. Inside, we compare everything to the absolute atrocity, and therefore it's kosher. Outside, whatever is the attitude towards Israel is compared to the Holocaust and therefore forbidden. Inside, it's a tool to permit everything, and outside, it's a weapon to forbid everything. What led to it? How did we climb this ladder so high? Up until the Holocaust, the idea of a Jewish state was a tiny, marginal, irrelevant minority opinion and ideology within the Jewish people. Nobody really wanted it. Never mind where you came from. It was not a real idea. But once the gates of the camps were open and the magnitude of the atrocities was discovered, a brilliant reverse engineering was done. All of a sudden, Israel, the state, just born, became the heir and the successor of the just perished Jewish people, the very Jewish people who opposed its establishment. Their memory was confiscated, was hijacked, and changed, alternated. When I was a child, Israel sanctified, or when I was a child, we celebrated a new holiday in our calendar, Yom HaShoah veHagvura. And as my father used to say, it was 50-50, Shoah and Gvura. A small Holocaust, but a huge heroism. It was a new holiday because we sanctified from a Zionist, Israeli, victorious prism, we sanctified the rebellious of the Zionists during the Holocaust, or the movements of the heroes during the Holocaust, and we had some contempt to the lambs slaughtered at the Holocaust, the Jews. The Holocaust was very Jewish, and the heroism was very Israeli and Zionist. So on top of the field, the cover was a beautiful supermarket-like formula. Jewish and democratic, like two at the price of one. At some other seminar, at some other time, I'll be more than happy to share with you what I feel about this special sale. But underneath, there was a very, very, I will say almost malicious hand wrestling between the ethnical Jewish and the civic and democratic Israeli. The Jewish project versus the Israeli project. By the end of the process, the Jewish project prevailed. And the project of Israel, which belongs to all of its Israelis, in a way lost. Not yet defeated, but in a way lost. Now, it's not just the Jewish element prevail, it's the Holocaustic Jewish mentality that took over the public sphere and the public discourse. And when it started, it was an eruption of a volcano of emotions. Menachem Begin, may he rest in peace. Now, when we have this kind of right-wing leaders, we miss him. But at the time, we didn't miss him so much. And during the first war in Lebanon, he has an exchange conversation with the American president, Ronald Reagan. And Reagan asked him, what the heck are you doing in Beirut? What is that? What's going on there? Tells him Menachem Begin, Arafat is Hitler, and his bunker is like the Führer bunker in Berlin. And when I send my troops over there, I actually send them to retroactively solve an issue that we couldn't face at the time. And there are so many emotions like that, so much so that the Holocaust, unlike previous years, became an omnipresent political element in our political sphere. And with the years, when something like this becomes so common and so used, it's not only that the Holocaust became political, but Holocaust cynicism became a political property as well. Every enemy is an oppressor. Every year is 1938. It's a stupid equation, but brilliant one. It's stupid because it's not 38. We have different international norm, crimes against humanity. We the Jews, we have recognition of states and governments and social organizations and international institutions. The Vatican had the Second Vatican Convention with the Nostra Aetate, and all of a sudden, even the theological approach toward the Jewish entity is different. And if you say that now, 2022, 2020, 2019, 2017, we are at 1938, you actually say the Israeli project and the Zionist project failed. But leave it aside. In order to recruit the national support toward this Holocaustic project, we gave birth to identity-molding trips to Auschwitz. And listen to the dialectic dynamics. The early Zionist conception was, let's create a place which departs, which divorces from the exilic experience in order to have an alternative. Now, in order to support the sustainability of this project, we go back to exile. Thousands, if not tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, are going back to Auschwitz in order to redefine the Israeliness and the Jewishness. And in the time in which collective definitions, collective national, not the nationalistic dimension of it, but the national as defining the collective, populating the nation state, in times in which it is fragmented, dismantled, broken down, many identities are born. Gender, ethnicity, sexual, skin color. But in Israel, we have another wing or another paragraph for this identity politics, Holocaustic identity. It is built upon a very old and ancient Jewish instinct. The entire world is against us. Yes, no, it's irrelevant, but when I was a child, this was a schlager. This was a song that was the most popular song of the time. The entire world is against us. So it's not only a Jewish instinct, it was adopted also as a governmental long-term strategy. So here is the circle I'm describing. There was Holocaust. Israel nominated or appointed or self-appointed itself to be the successor of the perished Jewry, though it opposed its very existence, and therefore we are allowed to do things that others are forbidden to do. Now, it's not a time, though we have to keep it at the back of our minds, to discuss this oxymoron, the state of the Jewish people. I use this term so many thousands of times without really realizing what it means. But is it possible intellectually? Is it possible from the point of view of political science to have a political entity, a state, that the majority of its stakeholders, the Jewish people, are living outside of its boundaries? Doesn't work. However, that's the way we feel. And in order to support or to sustain this vicious circle, the Holocaust is crucial. Inside, the Holocaust is the identity which organizes it all, and outside, everybody is anti-Semite, everything is anti-Semitic, every enemy and every nemesis and every criticism is either Fahrenheit or Hitler. Nothing less. What is the meaning of all of that? My mom. My mom was persuaded. What do you mean persuaded? It was her, the self of her, that the world is equally divided, 50-50. 50% of the world are Jews, and 50% hate Jews. Sorry, Mom, but your mathematics doesn't work. At one sense, not about the numbers, I mean, the Jews 50% of the world, I mean, from her point of view, maybe, but the partition lines are going some other place. The world is not necessarily divided Jews versus anti-Semites or Jews versus Jew haters. There is a different thing here. The different thing is as follows. There is a shared language, a shared inner syntax between the Jew and the anti-Jew. Both believe, the Jew and the anti-Semite believe in the Jewish exceptionalism. I believe that I'm chosen. I believe that I'm brilliant. I believe that I'm unique. I believe that I'm the best in the world. And he believes that I'm exceptional, but I'm a piece of you-know-what. So we both believe in Jewish exceptionalism from two different points of view. And I say, Mom, I'm sorry, but the world should be divided between those who believe in Jewish exceptionalism, positive or negative, and those who believe that all humans are equal. It's a different partition. So it's some of us and some of them versus some of them and some of us. Having said that, we have to understand that this dialogue, this discourse, this conversation between the Jew and anti-Semite is actually mutually defining each other dynamic. Jean Améry defined himself in one of his writings as a Jew invented by Hitler. So I need a Hitler to invent me. And Jean-Paul Sartre defined that if the Jew would not existed, the anti-Semite had to invent him. So the anti-Semite needs the Jew, and the Jew needs the anti-Semite in order to define each other. So what about us? What about people in this room, people like myself, people like my friends and my family, who do not want to be defined by the others and do not want to define anybody else? I'll come to us in a second. But this exceptionalism, it's something that requires a little bit of more intellectual attention. When you say, as a Jew, I'm exceptional, I also want to expand it and to apply it to some other fields in life. I want to say the Holocaust was unique. It happened to us all only. No other human suffering can be compared to it. The Armenian one, forget about it. The Herero in Namibia, Southwest Africa, forget about it. The original nations in America, no way to compare. Slavery? Was all over the place. Nothing is compared to our monopoly over suffering. And let nobody touch our Holocaust. This uniqueness of the event is a problem, because if it is einmalig, it's one time, one off, it will never repeat itself. So we don't have to look inside. We don't have to understand what led to it. We don't have to understand the larger meaning of it, because it happened once, will never happen again. End of story, gamarnu. But it is not so. It is not so. Because there must be a different reading to this stuff, which demonopolize the monopoly we want to have via the Holocaust. Conclusions. The credit in this bank one day will be over. The next generation, on the one after. Here in Germany and all over the place, people will say, come on, it was so many years ago. The same way the German-born kids say, the Armenian Holocaust is not mine, though 40% of my classroom are coming from Turkish origin, the Turkish-German citizen will say, the Holocaust is not mine. And both of them will say, Hitler and Barbarossa, they're somewhere, I don't know, back in the history. So it happened, it's not nice. I assume responsibility, let's move on. Israel, you want to be part of our value system? What do you have to offer? One day, the last Nazi will pass away, and the last Jew will pass away, and that will be the day in which the Holocaust will not be a living experience anymore, but will be a memory. What's the strategy toward this future memory? We have to reframe it. We have to move the conversation from us to us only, ours only, legitimizes it all only, to a general universal dimensions. It is not a tragedy that happened to Jews only. Never again is never again to any human beings, because the Holocaust happened by humans to humans. And the Holocaust happened to humans by humans, and therefore it can happen to everybody, every place, by anybody. Even a Jew can be an oppressor. We're not protected because we are human. And therefore, when we want to fight and to defeat the real anti-Semitism, we should not fight it separately from a larger comprehension that we must combat hatred wherever it is. Thank God today we have a menu, choose whom you like to hate. Xenophobia, I have a dish for you. Homophobia, I have something special today. Islamophobia, our expertise. Everybody has somebody to hate. And I say it's about time that there will be a world coalition against hatred, in which we take our experience and share it with others, and therefore it is all of us who stand against hatred, against all of those who implement and exercise it. And we, Jews and Israelis, we will never be able partners to this coalition as long as we use our personal traumatic experience in order to block any criticism and any alternative point of view against what we are doing to others and should not be done. What is the alternative? We did not yet react, historically speaking, as Jews, to the secularization of modernity, to the Holocaust, and to the establishment of the State of Israel. We have intuitive, instinctive reactions, but historic ones, it takes longer. And the meanwhile, Israel continues the pathological relationship of the Jew and the Goy, the Jew and the non-Jew, and we are the largest shtetl ever established. On that, we didn't yet overcome the exilic problems. And this actually requires a totally different approach, a totally different renovation of Judaism. Judaism should not be based on the exclusion of the other, and should not be built upon mine only, and should not be excused by I was an abused child and therefore I am a violent parent. We have enough seeds and enough roots and enough foundations of Judaism to begin the process which says, do not treat others in a way you hate to be treated yourself. That's the entire Torah on one leg. How do you do it? You do it with a question. Here is my father-in-law, my beloved father-in-law, maybe my best friend in life. He's 98 years old nowadays. Fantastic, healthy, hi papi. He was a partisan at the French resistance at the Second World War. He came out of the war, and he said the miracle of the Second World War is not the mere fact that the Jewish people survived. That's nice. I'm happy about it. The miracle of the Second World War is that there were righteous among the nations who risked their life in order to save others, and by that saved humanity. So there were killers, murderers, survivors, and saviors. And here and now, in this Berlin, we should put on the table a question. Are we, wherever we are, ready to risk our life in order to save the other? Are we ready to risk our reputation in order to take a position which is not that popular yet? Are we ready to gamble or to risk again our career and political clout and whatever it is in order to change the alternative? Many outside of the room say, you're right, but. I think you have a point, but. And this room says, no buts anymore. This room says, in order to bring another wall in our life here in Berlin, in a convention like this, we do the first courageous step. We take off the wall the first block. The rest will follow. Thank you very much.